Hi, my name is Perry, and I'm the curriculum manager for CodeVA. And today I'm going to show you how to build something in Code.org's App Lab. The very first thing that I'd like to do is go ahead and show you how to sign in and make an account. If you have not done this yet, this is a pretty quick and easy process that shouldn't take you too much time. The first thing you do is click on the sign in button. And the next thing that you might want to do is consider using this continue with Google sign in. That allows you to use your normal Google sign in for either your school district or your personal email. That way, everything that you create is attached to that, and you can get to it fairly easily. I have a username, so I'm going to use that. And you could also set it up this way. And you could also set it up this way, and it'll allow you to get to where you need to go. Um, on the inside of code.org's things. It allows you to save your progress and get back to whatever it is you're working on. So you might notice at first I've got this dashboard that's here. This is that you can find it by clicking on the top left here if you ever get lost in code.org's website. You could also go and see all the wonderful courses that code.org has for computer science teachers as well as computer science students throughout the country and the world. There's also buttons that you can click in the tab that allow you to see the projects that you've created. And then if you've been doing professional learning through code.org ever, you will have an extra tab here that allows you to see that. Uh, Over here, you'll see my name and settings, and you'll see some other things over here. But the main thing that we're focused on right now is to create something. We're going to be actually using something called App Lab. And so we just have to make our way down to App Lab, which is the purple icon with the phone, and click that, and it will open up a brand new screen for us to use. So I think the very first thing that we need to do is just talk about the workspace that we have here. Some of you may have used Scratch before, others of you maybe not, but this is a block-based language, programming language, very similar to Scratch where you don't actually have to type in the text base. You can just grab and drop things that you want to program. One of the really handy things about this is it's very quick for prototyping. You can throw a couple of things together very quickly and then be able to test to see if you have an idea that works. You'll notice that our toolbox here has a couple of different things. For today's project, for the project that we're going to be working on, we're going to be using UI controls. We're going to skip over data. We're not going to use that one, but we are going to be using control, which uses if statements, if else statements, and some things like that, as well as the variables toolbox. And then we're not going to be using Canvas. We're not going to be using Turtle, but we will be using math, which you can see here. It gives you all the little bits that you can throw into like a condition as a conditional, right, into an if statement that allows you to see whether things are equivalent or not. And then we also have functions where you can create functions. This is similar to if you're a little bit advanced with Scratch, this is similar to my blocks, right? So this is the toolbox, and the toolbox is there for you to be able to take an item from here and drag it into your actual workspace where your code is going to be placed. In the workspace, you'll notice that if I bring something over here, it locks in and it has 1, 2, 3 like lines of code, right? If I would take another one and put it in, it wants to kind of magnet on to the other one. I can't really add any extra space in between unless I wanted to use a keystroke. You see the black flashing cursor almost in the code. If I click on my down arrow key, I can get to the bottom of line 3 and I can hit enter, and that gives me some space. So if you're somebody who likes to have a little bit of space in between your chunks of code, you can do it that way if you would like. Another way that you can do this in the workspace, it's really cool. You can actually click on this show text button, and it allows you to change over your block-based code into text-based code. This is a great way to learn text-based code, is to be building something in block-based and then switch over and see, well, how is that written in JavaScript? And this is JavaScript that we're looking at right now. I don't have anything filled in, so it looks kind of blank and bare, but you'll notice that line 4 here is just a semicolon, and that is the space that I just added. If I wanted to, I could add a few more in here too if I wanted to, and then go back to show blocks, and you'll notice I just have blank spaces that are here. You can, in the workspace, you can do very similar things to what you would do in a document. You could actually highlight these all together by clicking and dragging around them. If I just wanted to get rid of 5 of the 6 that I have there, I can do that and then delete them, and that will do the trick. Also, if I wanted to, I could actually draw a lasso around things, and I can do a copy and then a paste. And I could do that any number of times if I wanted to, and it will add in whatever chunks of code that I am working on. That can come in pretty handy too. So this is the workspace where all your code is, and like I said, it is a sequential program, so it reads from top to bottom. It's not like Scratch where you bring in chunks of code and just place them somewhere in your workspace, and then the code that you write pulls from different, using message or broadcast and functions and other things like that. Um, so this has to be in a linear type of format. It really doesn't change a whole lot of the way that we're going to do things, but it is to help you keep in mind that it will be going through things in a type of hierarchy as it goes through the code, through the program code. I'm going to move my lovely picture here over to this side, and we'll talk about this side of things, which is our this is the place, and you can resize this. This is the wireframe for the cell phone, right? Because we are creating something in this program today. What we're going to be creating is actually an app. So you can send it to your phone, and I'll show you how to do that in just a bit. But you could send it to your phone and test it out and see how it goes, or you can send it to a friend or family and share something that you've made with them. One of the things that I really like about this feature with teachers is you don't have to send it to a phone, you can send it to a URL, right? An address, a web address. So you could take that web address and you could embed it into a newsletter, a digital newsletter, or a website or something that you've created. And that way, if you've created something for students to learn with and to practice with, you can actually have them just click on it and it'll open it up on a computer or a notebook of some sort, a digital notebook, or also like a phone or anything like that, tablets, right? So uh, it comes in really handy. So this area right here is where you will be creating the elements, the design elements of your actual app. So you'll notice that it has a little button here that says code. Then there's another one that says design, and then another one that we're not going to be using that says data. So let's just take a look at these two. First of all, code allows us to be in this area where we can see the toolbox and the workspace. As soon as we click on design, those change, and now I have a design toolbox. Instead of little code bits that I'd be working with, I've got the ability to drag in buttons and text inputs and other things that I might find handy in creating my own app. It also has this lovely way of already kind of theming out things if I wanted to. That way I don't have to worry about making all of my own colors and those types of things. I can have it fit within a design template that's already there, and it's already is kind of user-friendly and it looks nice. So you don't have to worry about accidentally throwing in some garish colors that don't go together. So the way that the design toolbox works is that they just replicate things in another code that you don't have to see. So if I click on this and bring it over, you'll notice that I now have a button on my screen, right? If I wanted to, I could pull over another one and it brings in another button. If we look at the properties, so in the workspace, instead of it being a place that we drag in code chunks, it's going to be telling us all about the properties of the elements that we've brought into our design space. So this first one, the top one, that was the first button that I created. If you notice, the ID for that button is called button 1. And the second button is called button 2. And here you'll notice a whole bunch of other things. If I wanted to, I could write the word start, and now I've got a button that says start on it. And I'd probably want to change this too, just to make it nice. I'd want to change this so it says button start as well. That way I always know that I'm talking about this. And then this one could be maybe button stop, right? And I can put the text stop in this one. And so now I've created a stop and a start button for myself in this program. A couple of other things that you might notice is that I can change the width and the height of the pixels of the settings by using this up and down button here. It just kind of moves across, or I can easily type in a number that I want, and that will work too. I can also change the actual position if I'm really trying to line something up perfectly and I want it to be at 105. Maybe by dragging it, I can't quite get there, although it has a pretty good snap to where you want it to be, and you'll notice the dashed arrows to show you that we're lining things up the right way. But if you just want to make sure and you want to kind of like run through things pretty quickly, you could just set the X position and the Y position, set up very similar to Cartesian scale, except it's a little bit backwards. If you notice here in the design or on the wireframe screen, the very top corner is 0x and 0y. As we move down, it increases and it moves into positive integers all the way to the very bottom corner, which is 320, I believe, and 450. So that is a little bit different, but you'll get used to that the more you work with it. Other things here, we can change the text color of the element if you notice. So I can change it so that it's any color that I want to, and actually I can change the opacity of it as well by using this. Or if I wanted to be a little bit more extreme and choose choose a different color scheme instead of gray, I can move that around over here, and that would be fine too. So really, this allows you a lot of customization, a lot of ways to be able to make that happen. Now, let's say that I wanted to have the exact same text color on this one that says stop. I could just do a copy on this, click on this one, and then I could go to my text color over here and do paste, and it will have the exact same color for the text. That's really the best way to be able to create very similar colors, is to do that. Um, it doesn't really have a palette that stores colors or anything like that. So if you want things to be the exact same colors and you're not using the themes, but instead going on your own, then you would use that process in order to match up your colors. And of course, we can always find different, we should probably make this a red, right? Maybe a pale red. There we go, that looks pretty nice. And then the start, we'll just go ahead and make that green, right? Make that a pale green like that. So those colors look like they belong together. There's some other things that we can change too. I'm not going to, but you could also change into different fonts that you'd want to. You can change the font size if you wanted to really fill up the space. It will create overflow. Like if I keep on going, you'll notice it just moves into out of bounds type of area, so that's not good. If you're working with an actual text area or something like that, it creates a little overflow up and down arrow so that you could scroll down to see what was written. And I try to stay away from that, as you'll see in our main design. We can also change the text alignment, just like you would in a document, where you have different justifications for left or right or center. Um, and then you could also embed an image into the back of this. Instead of a color, you could have an image. Um, and I believe that replaces the, if you put an image in, it replaces the word as well. So then you'd have a button with just an image inside of that. The next thing is that they've added this in the recent year, a way to change the border width and the border color as well, along with the border radius, which you'll notice as I increase this number, the edges or the corners of my buttons box ends up curving just a little bit more, and so I can make a really nice rounded shape, which I think looks very, very nice. So. Feel free to explore this a little bit if you would like. I am not going to be starting with this exactly. We're going to do in our project something a little bit different, but this was a great way for you to get in and understand what it is that we're working with. And as we go, we might learn some extra tips and tricks as far as how to create some things with some personality and to serve our purpose in the app that we create. So please join me in the next one, in the next video, and we'll pick up the beginning of the tutorial there. Thank you.